Hey peeps, Gamer Drag here, welcome back, where this is just a quick explainer video on the numbering system. Mainly done this for myself to make sure I've got it right. So this is a panel that we sort of recognise now, and that has come from the game. And before we start digging into this, let's just make sure we're clear on how our base 10 numbering system works. If we take a number 251, what that really means is we've got 1 unit, 5 lots of 10s, which is 50 units, and 2 lots of 100s, which is 200 units, which means we add those together, 200 plus 50 plus 1 is 251 units. That's what our number represents. So we have our columns based in 1, 10s, 100th and 1000s, and these are coming from the base 10. So the second digit here is base 10, the next one is 10 times the one previous to it. So 10 times 1 is 10, 10 times 10 is 100, 10 times 100 is 1000, and so on and so forth. Base 4 works in this similar sort of way. We have our units, and our next column is 4 times the units, and the next column is 4 times the 16, 4, which is 16, 4 fours are 16, and then the next column is 4 times 16, which is 64, and the next column is 4 times 64, which is 256, and so on. So the numbering system here, because it's base 4, if we see, and you wouldn't actually see it written like this, but if it was the numbers that represented 2, 3 and 1, then that would mean 1 unit, 3 of the fourths, which is 12, and 2 of the 16th, which is 32, which would give us a total of 45. So this number represents 45. Okay, so how does this actually play out? Let's get rid of the base 10s, not to confuse ourselves. And the way this board works is it starts from the centre, and I'll put letters on here just so we've got an order. So this is the equivalent of the first column. This is the units. B is the equivalent of the second column, C the third column, D the fourth column, E the fifth column, and that's all we can have on this. Now each column can represent 0, which is nothing drawn on it, 1, 2 or 3. So 1 would look like that on this board. Now let's just mask that out a little bit, because we're starting with the unit column, and the unit column is this plus the 4 surrounding points. The B column is here with the 4 surrounding points, and as you can see, A and B share 2 points, and that's okay. C is here with the 4 surrounding points, and D and E. So the numbers we can represent are drawn like this: 1, 2 and 3. So if I take a paintbrush and we want to draw 1, we simply go between those two. And then when we want to draw 2, we draw 2 like that, and then 3 is drawn like that. So to move to 4, it's the same as moving from 9 to 10 in base 10. We've got to the maximum now, there's nowhere else to draw. This A can only represent 0, 1, 2 or 3. To reach to 4, we have to come into the second column and put a 1 in the second column. That means 1, 4 plus 0 things. Now that's not 10 because this is the fourth column, so that means 4 plus 0 is 4. So then we go and draw 5, because we put a 1 back over on the unit column, and then a 2 in the unit column, plus the 4 is 6. 7. And then when we come to 8, well, we want 2 lots of the 4, so we put 2 into the 4 column. 9, 10, 11, and then 12 is 3 in the 4 columns. 3 4s, 12. So what happens when we get to the end of that? Well, let's have a look. 12, 13, 14, 15. So 16 now comes into the 16 column. So now we say we've got 1 in the 16 column. Then we've got 17, 18, 19, and then 20 is 1 again in the 4 column. 16 plus 4, 116 plus 1 4 is 20. 21, 22, 23, 24, and so on. And then when we get eventually to the end of our 16s, we move on to our 64 column, and we will put a 1 there. So in the game we were given a clue, and the clue was this number that we typed in, and this number translated into 406. But this doesn't seem to be any of the patterns that we've just spoken about. And that's because the system, the control panels, are clever enough to correct for errors. And so the way it does that is it looks at each one in turn. Let's start with this one. And it sees that there's one thing coming off, so that it thinks that should represent 1. And so it corrects it to be 1. This one here also has 1 off, so it corrects that to be 1. This one here also has 1 coming off, and that is in the correct place already. This one here has 2 coming off, and they are in the correct place. And this one also has 2 coming off, but it's not correct. As we can see, 2 is drawn like that. And so the system was corrected to look like I've just drawn in the red. So how does this make 406? Well, let's make this, look at this. So in our units column, we've got 2. So I'm going to write down 2. In our 4 columns, we've got 1. I'm just going to write down 1. In our 16 column, we've got 1. In our 64 column, we've got 2. And in our 256 column, we've got 1. So let's translate this into numbers, starting from this end. So we've got 256. We've got 2 64s, which is 128. And I'll just line my text up over all onto one side. We've got 116. We've got 1 4, and we've got 2 units, which are just 2. So let's add that up. Let's add the units up first of all. So 6 plus 8 is 14, plus 6 is 20, plus 4 is 24, plus 2 is 26. So we'll put the 6 down and carry the 2. So the 2 we've carried, plus 5 is 7, plus 2, 9, plus the 1 is 10. So we'll put the 0 down and carry the 1. 1 plus 2 is 3, plus the 1 is 4. There's our 406. Just like that. So I hope that gives you some sort of understanding of how all this comes together. No, not that. 2 units, 1 4, 1 16, 128. Alright, that's it. Take care now, folks. We'll see you soon. Bye now.